My wife confessed under anesthesia that she'd been sleeping with my brother for 8 months, but one shocking twist from me destroyed her reputation. I'm Cole, 35, male. My wife Elise was getting her gallbladder removed, a routine surgery she'd been putting off for months. I'm standing by her hospital bed like a good husband, holding her hand while she comes out of anesthesia. My mom is in the visitor chair, scrolling Facebook. The room was quiet. Elise was mumbling random stuff as the drugs wore off, complaining about the four, asking for water, typical post-surgery babbling. Then she dropped the bomb I never saw coming. I've been sleeping with your brother for 8 months. Crystal clear, no confusion, just a plain statement delivered like she was commenting on the weather. My mom's phone clattered to the floor. The nurse froze. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Elise kept going, completely oblivious. Ronan makes me feel alive again. You're always working. He actually cares about what he has. I looked at my mom. Her face had gone white. I recognized that look. It was the look of someone getting caught. What is she saying? I asked her quietly. She bent down to pick up her phone, hands shaking. Cole, she's not herself right now. People say all kinds of crazy stuff under anesthesia. I asked you one question. The nurse cleared her throat awkwardly. Sir, patients often have vivid dreams during recovery. I held up a hand. My eyes stayed locked on my mother's face, the woman who raised me, who taught me about integrity and family loyalty, who was now looking at me like I'd caught her stealing. Mom. She sank back into the chair. I don't know, son. I told you she's not herself right now. Elise was still mumbling, bits and pieces floating up from her subconscious, hotel rooms and lying to me about girls' nights. How Ronan was everything I wasn't. Spontaneous, exciting, attentive. Each word was like a knife twisting deeper. I walked out before I said something that would get me banned from the hospital. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 2 hours, hands gripping the steering wheel. 8 months. My wife had been sleeping with my brother for 8 months, and my own mother not only knew about, but was basically covering for them. Her nervousness told me everything. But here's the thing about being betrayed by everyone you love. It clarifies your priorities real quick. I wasn't going to be the victim here. I was going to burn their whole world down and walk away whistling. I spent the next week playing the concerned husband while Elise recovered. I brought her soup, fluffed her pillows, listened to her complain about the incision pain, even drove to 3 different pharmacies at 2 a.m. when she couldn't sleep. I let her think she was safe. Meanwhile, I started digging. First stop was our cell phone records. We'd been on a family plan for years. What I found made my stomach turn. Hundreds of texts between her and Ronan over the past 8 months, phone calls that lasted hours. The pattern was obvious once you knew what to look for. Every time Elise said she was having dinner with her sister, there was a call to Ronan. Every girls' night out matched up with Ronan being mysteriously unavailable for our usual hangouts. What really got me, though, was the way they were trash-talking about me. Ronan calling me boring, Elise complaining that I was emotionally unavailable, both of them laughing about how clueless I was. I screenshotted everything, saved it all to a secure cloud account. Next, I checked our credit card statements. Hotel charges I'd never seen before. Restaurants in parts of town Elise claimed she never visited. Even a jewelry purchase from Tiffany's that definitely wasn't for me. Ronan had been wining and dining my wife with money from the business we co-owned. Yeah, I forgot to mention that part. Ronan and I ran a construction company together, something we'd built from nothing over 10 years. We were equal partners, shared bank accounts, and trusted each other completely, which meant he'd been using our joint business funds to finance his affair with my wife. That's when I called Mateo. Mateo Cruz was my college roommate, now a private investigator who specialized in corporate fraud. We'd stayed close over the years. I'd been best man at his wedding, helped him move twice, and we still grabbed drinks every few weeks. Cole, what's wrong? You sound terrible, he said when he picked up. I told him everything, the hospital confession, the phone records, the financial trail. He listened without interrupting. Jesus Christ, Cole, your own brother. I need everything, Mateo. Photos, financial records, legal documentation. I want them buried so deep they'll need archaeologists to find their reputations. I paused. And Mateo, bill me your full rate. No friendship discounts. This is business. This is going to get expensive and ugly. Good. I want it ugly. Mateo got to work immediately. Within 72 hours, he'd uncovered a paper trail that would make a forensic accountant weep. Hotel receipts, dinner charges, even a weekend trip to Vegas that Ronan had written off as a business expense. But the real gold mine was the surveillance footage. Mateo had connections at a private security company that monitored several upscale hotels in the city. For the right price, they were willing to share footage from their parking lots and lobbies. What we found was months of documentation showing Elise and Ronan entering and leaving hotels together. The most damning piece was from just 2 weeks before Elise's surgery. Clear footage of them in the lobby of the Marriott downtown, Ronan's hand on the small of her back as they walked toward the elevators. She was wearing the dress I bought her for our anniversary. I sat in Mateo's office watching my wife and brother on his laptop screen, and I felt something cold and final click into place in my chest. 3 days later, Ronan showed up at my office unannounced. He walked in like he owned the place, that cocky smirk I'd grown up with plastered across his face. "Cole, we need to talk." I looked up from my desk. "About what?" "About you neglecting your wife and then getting all upset when someone else steps up to take care of her." The nerve of this guy. He wasn't even pretending to be sorry. If anything, he seemed proud of himself. "What did you just say?" He sat down across from my desk, leaning back like he was holding court. "Elise has been telling me how unhappy she is, how you work all the time, never pay attention to her, treat her like a roommate instead of a wife. So yeah, I've been there for her. Someone had to be." "What did you expect? You've been there for her by screwing her in hotel rooms?" He shrugged. "She needed to feel appreciated. You weren't doing it, so I stepped in. That's what family does. We take care of each other." He winked. The bastard was sitting in my office, confessing to an 8-month affair with my wife and somehow making it sound like he was doing me a favor. I still wonder how I didn't break his jaw that day. "And the business money you've been stealing to finance this family support?" His expression didn't change. "I've been investing in client relationships. Elise comes to business dinners sometimes. It's all legit. $60,000 in fraudulent expenses is legit." For the first time, Ronan looked surprised. You've been tracking my expenses?" "I've been tracking everything, Ronan. Did you really think you could steal from me and sleep with my wife without consequences?" Ronan leaned forward, his mask slipping. "What are you going to do about it, Cole? You're too much of a pushover to actually fight for anything. You'll complain, but in the end you'll do nothing. You always do nothing." I stood up slowly. "Get out of my office. Or what? Or I'll throw you out myself. In pieces." He laughed. "You and what, army little brother? You've always been soft. Mom knew it, I knew it, and apparently Elise figured it out too. Maybe if you'd grown a backbone years ago, your wife wouldn't have needed to find a real man." He stood up, straightening his jacket like he'd just won something. "Elise is happy for the first time in years. If you actually cared about her, you'd want that for her too, but you don't care about anyone but yourself." After he left, I sat there for 5 minutes just breathing. All the rage was slowly building up. It was taking me all the patience in the world not to do something I'd regret. But that's not how I handle things, because I was about to teach the golden child a lesson he'll never forget. That night I called Lauren, Ronan's ex-wife. She lived about 20 minutes from downtown, and when I asked to meet, she agreed immediately. We met at a coffee shop near her place. I'd already ordered her usual. She looked surprised that I remembered. "You've got a good memory," she said, settling into her chair. "Some things stick." She looked healthier than I'd seen her in years, and she seemed genuinely happy. "How are the kids?" "Really well, actually. Lana made honor roll again, and Billy's finally found his groove in high school. They're happier since the divorce." She paused, studying my face. "But you didn't ask me here to catch up, did you?" I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the hotel security photos. Her face went pale. "Is this? No way. Wait, check this out." I showed her more photos, different hotels, different dates. Her hands were shaking by the time I'd scrolled through them all. "He's doing it again, isn't he?" she said quietly. "Oh my God. I am so sorry, Cole. 8 months that we can document, probably longer." She closed her eyes. I knew he hadn't changed. I knew it. But everyone said I was bitter, that I needed to move on and stop bad-mouthing him. "Your kids? Do they still see him regularly?" "When he bothers to show up, which isn't often. He's always too busy with work or his new girlfriend, Rebecca." She paused. "Or apparently with your wife." That's when I laid out my plan, not all of it, but enough to let her know that justice was finally coming. "Ronan's been stealing from our business to finance this affair. When this comes out, he's going to lose everything. If you want your child support payments to continue, you should probably get a court order for asset seizure before he can hide the money." Lauren's lawyer brain kicked in immediately. "How much are we talking about?" "Conservative estimate? About $60,000 over 10 months. Business funds used for personal expenses, including hotel rooms and jewelry for my wife." I pulled out a folder from my briefcase. "I had Mateo compile a preliminary report for you. Names, dates, amounts. Your lawyer can use this to fast-track the seizure." She flipped through the documents, her eyebrows rising higher with each page. "Cole, this is incredibly thorough and generous. You didn't have to do this." "Yeah, I did. Ronan screwed you over for years, and you deserve to recover what you can. Besides, your kids need that support money." She was quiet for a long time. "What do you need from me? Just be ready to act when the time comes. And when this is over, Ronan's going to come crawling back claiming he's changed, that he's learned his lesson. Don't fall for it." "Never again," she said firmly. "I learned that lesson the hard way." Meanwhile, Mateo was digging deeper into Ronan's activities. What he found was even worse than I'd expected. Ronan hadn't just been stealing to fund his affair. He'd been systematically looting the business for months, creating fake invoices, inflating expense reports, and skimming from client payments. "Cole," Matteo said during one of our meetings, "this is organized fraud. He's been planning this for a long time." "How long?" "Based on the financial patterns, at least a year. He's been setting up to either push you out or dissolve the partnership and take the assets with him." I nodded, not surprised. I'd suspected something was off about our quarterly numbers for months, but I'd given my brother the benefit of the doubt. Family loyalty, right? "What else?" "There's something else," Matteo continued. "I've been tracking his communications, and it looks like he's been bad-mouthing you to potential clients, trying to position himself as the reliable partner while making you look unstable." I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. Which clients? The Marshall Project, the downtown office complex, and that residential development in Westfield. I need to make some calls. That night, I installed security cameras throughout my house, not just for evidence. I had a feeling Ronan might try something stupid when his world started falling apart. But first, I called my housekeeper, Maria, and gave her the next 2 weeks off with full pay. She'd been with us for 3 years, and I wasn't about to let her get caught in the middle. "Mr. Cole, is everything okay?" she asked, concerned. "Just some family stuff I need to handle privately. Take your kids to see your sister in Phoenix like you've been wanting to. Consider it a paid vacation." Sure enough, 2 days later, my cameras caught Ronan letting himself into my house with a spare key I didn't know he had. He spent 20 minutes going through my home office, looking for documents, probably trying to figure out how much I knew. The arrogance was staggering. He was literally breaking into my house, rifling through my private papers while he was sleeping with my wife and stealing my money. I let him finish his search, then called him the next morning. "Find what you were looking for in my office 2 days ago." Silence on the other end. "Hello, I don't know what you're talking about. The security cameras caught everything. Should I call the cops now, or do you want to explain yourself first?" More silence. Then, in a voice I barely recognized, "You set me up. You set yourself up. I just documented it. What do you want?" "Nothing from you. You've already given me everything I need." I hung up before he could respond. 3 weeks until Thanksgiving. 3 weeks until I destroyed him in front of everyone who mattered. Ronan had spent his whole life believing he was untouchable. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The week before Thanksgiving, Ronan made his final play. He called a meeting at our office, just the two of us, claiming he wanted to clear the air before the holiday. He walked in wearing his most expensive suit, that familiar confident swagger that had always rubbed me the wrong way. But there was something different in his eyes, something that hadn't been there before. "Cole, we need to settle this like men." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Settle what?" This whole misunderstanding about Elise and me. You're blowing it out of proportion. $60,000 in stolen money is a misunderstanding?" Ronan waved his hand dismissively. "That's creative accounting and you know it. We've both taken liberties with business expenses. Don't act like you're some saint." The gaslighting was textbook Ronan. Take his crimes and project them onto me. Show me one receipt where I used business funds for personal expenses. "You don't get it, do you?" He leaned forward, his voice taking on that condescending tone he'd used since we were kids. "This isn't about the money. This is about you being a terrible husband and a worse business partner. Enlighten me. Elise came to me because you were neglecting her. She was lonely, frustrated, tired of being married to someone who cared more about work than his wife. I was there for her when you weren't." The rewriting of history was breathtaking. "And the stealing? Investment in client relationships. Elise is great with people, better than you'll ever be. Having her at business dinners has brought in more contracts than your boring spreadsheet presentations ever could." I almost admired his audacity. He'd managed to turn theft, adultery, and betrayal into noble acts of business development and marital counseling. "Here's what's going to happen," Ronan continued. "You're going to drop this jealous husband act and accept that Elise and I have something real. We're not going to sneak around anymore. We're going to be together openly, and you're going to deal with it like an adult." "Oh, and if I don't?" Ronan's mask slipped completely. The charming smile disappeared, replaced by something cold and mean. "Then I'll destroy you. I'll tell everyone you're an abusive husband who drove his wife away. I'll contact every client we have. I'll make sure you never work in this industry again." And there it was. The real Ronan finally showing himself, the manipulator who'd been playing a long game to take everything I had. And Elise is on board with this plan? Elise loves me. She's been miserable with you for years, but was too nice to leave until she found something better. Now she has. I nodded like I was considering it. Interesting. And Mom? Mom understands that Elise makes me happy. She wants what's best for both her sons, but she knows I deserve to be with someone who appreciates me. Of course. Mom had probably already started planning Ronan and Elise's wedding in her head, convinced that her precious boy deserved happiness no matter who got hurt. "You know what, Ronan? You're right." He blinked, surprised. "I am?" "Yeah. Elise should be with someone who appreciates her. I stood up, extending my hand. May the best man win. Ronan shook my hand, that smug smile returning. I knew you'd see reason eventually. You always were the smarter one. He thought he'd won, but I could see the calculation behind his expression. Ronan didn't just want my wife and my money, he wanted to destroy me completely. It was about proving he was better than me in every possible way. After he left, I sat back down and made a few phone calls. First to Mateo to make sure all our evidence was compiled and ready, then to Lauren's lawyer to coordinate the asset seizure, finally to the prosecutor's office to schedule a meeting about the fraud charges. Ronan thought he'd just negotiated a surrender. What he'd actually done was confess everything on camera. The hidden recording device I'd installed in my desk had caught every word, every threat, every admission of guilt. 3 days until I served them all their heads on a platter. Thanksgiving at my parents' house was always a production. Mom went all out, full turkey with all the trimmings, dining room table extended to seat 15 people, good china that only came out twice a year. This year's guest list included my parents, Elise and me, Ronan and his girlfriend Rebecca, Lauren with her 2 kids, my Aunt Darlene and Uncle Dennis, and my cousin Sean with his family. Perfect audience for the show. I'd spent the morning helping Dad set up extra chairs while Elise got ready upstairs. Ronan showed up around noon with Rebecca, some blonde he'd been dating for 6 months. She seemed nice enough, completely unaware that her boyfriend was a cheater. Ronan was his usual charming self, hugging everyone, making jokes, playing the role of devoted son and brother. Elise came downstairs wearing a new dress I'd never seen before, something expensive and inappropriate for a family dinner. She hugged everyone, playing the perfect daughter-in-law, but when she hugged Ronan, she whispered something in his ear that made him smirk. Mom was in full hostess mode, orchestrating everything like a military operation, but I noticed how she kept looking between Ronan and Elise with this satisfied expression. Dad seemed oblivious to the undercurrents, just happy to have the family together. The poor guy still had no idea his wife had been enabling the destruction of one son to protect her favorite. Dinner was the usual chaos, kids running around, multiple conversations happening at once. I played my part, made small talk, laughed at Uncle Dennis's terrible jokes, but I was watching, always watching. Ronan and Elise were being bolder now, probably thinking they'd convince me to accept their arrangement, little touches, meaningful glances, inside jokes that excluded everyone else. Even Rebecca started to notice, looking confused when Ronan paid more attention to his brother's wife than to his own girlfriend. After dinner, while people were digesting and the kids were watching football, Ronan cornered me in the kitchen. "See how happy Elise is?" he said quietly. "That's what she looks like when someone actually pays attention to her. She does seem glowing. That's because she's with someone who deserves her, someone who puts her first." The arrogance was staggering. He was literally gloating about stealing my wife at our family's Thanksgiving dinner. "Ronan," I said, "there's something I need to tell you." "What?" I smiled, not a nice smile. "I lied to you in my office. I'm not accepting anything. I'm destroying you." His face went pale. "What are you talking about?" Instead of answering, I walked back into the dining room where everyone was gathered. Time for the main event. I stood up, clearing my throat. "Kids, why don't you go watch some TV? Adults need to talk." The room gradually quieted, everyone turning to look at me. Then the kids slowly left the room. "Before we do the traditional gratitude speeches, I want to share something I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for the truth, even when it's painful. I'm thankful for learning who the people in my life really are." Confused murmurs rippled through the room. Elise looked nervous. Ronan had gone dead white. "See, I've learned something important over the past few months. Sometimes the people who claim to love us the most are the ones who betray us the deepest." I pulled out my phone and connected it to Dad's sound system. "Mom, you always taught us that family comes first, that we should protect each other, support each other, never betray each other, so I'm sure you'll be interested to hear this." I pressed play. Elise's voice filled the dining room, slurred but unmistakable. "I've been sleeping with your brother for 8 months. The silence that followed was deafening, but I wasn't done. I let the recording play for another 30 seconds. Her drugged confessions about Ronan making her feel alive, about me being a neglectful husband who deserved what I got. Then I switched to the conversation I'd recorded in my office just days earlier. Ronan's voice filled the room, cold and calculating. "This is about you being a terrible husband and a worse business partner. Elise came to me because you were neglecting her." Gasps echoed around the table. Rebecca stood up so fast her chair fell over. "What the hell is this?" "That," I said calmly, "was recorded 3 days ago when Ronan threatened to destroy my reputation and my business if I didn't accept his relationship with my wife." I connected my phone to Dad's TV, filling the screen with hotel surveillance footage. This is 8 months of documented adultery funded by money stolen from our business. More photos flashed across the screen. Financial records showing Ronan's theft, text messages between him and Elise mocking me, screenshots of fake business expenses used to pay for their affair. Ronan jumped up from his seat. "Cole, you don't understand." I understand that you've been stealing from me, sleeping with my wife and planning to destroy me while smiling to my face every day for months." The room erupted. Rebecca grabbed her purse and headed for the door, screaming at Ronan to lose her number forever. Uncle Dennis was shouting questions, but the most interesting reaction was Mom's. She stood up and pointed a shaking finger at me. "How dare you humiliate your brother like this? Ronan made a mistake, but you—" "A mistake?" I turned to stare at her. "Mom, he's been betraying me for 8 months. He stole $60,000 from our business. He threatened to destroy my career if I didn't let him keep sleeping with my wife. What part of that was a mistake? Ronan is hurting. His divorce was hard on him. He's been struggling. So that gives him the right to destroy my marriage and steal my money?" Dad had been silent through the whole exchange, but now he stood up slowly, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. He looked at Mom with an expression I'd never seen before, complete and utter disgust. "Linda," he said quietly, "you knew about this. You knew our son was stealing from his brother and sleeping with his brother's wife, and you said nothing." Mom's chin lifted defiantly. "Ronan is my son. I'm not going to abandon him when he needs support. Cole is your son, too. Cole is strong. He can handle this. Ronan needs our help right now." The room went dead silent. Dad stared at Mom like he'd never seen her before. "Our son," Dad said slowly, "has been betraying his brother in the worst possible way, and your response is to make excuses for him. I'm trying to hold this family together. By enabling Ronan to destroy Cole? By covering up theft and adultery? By choosing favorites among your own children?" Her mask finally cracked. "Ronan has always needed more support. Cole was always the responsible one, the one who could take care of himself. Ronan needed more help, more understanding. Mom hadn't just enabled Ronan's betrayal, she justified it to herself because her precious golden child could do no wrong." Dad looked around the room at the devastation, Rebecca gone, Elise sobbing, Ronan stammering excuses. Then he looked back at Mom with complete revulsion. 42 years of marriage, he said quietly, "and I'm just now seeing who you really are." He walked upstairs without another word. 5 minutes later, he came back down with a suitcase. "Dennis, can I stay with you and Darlene for a while?" Uncle Dennis nodded, still looking shell-shocked. As Dad headed for the door, he stopped next to my chair and put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm proud of you, son. It took guts to expose the truth, even when it hurt." After Dad left, the room slowly emptied. Ronan and Elise tried to approach me, but I brushed past them without a word. I let them deal with the wreckage of their choices. Mom sat alone at the head of the table, surrounded by the remnants of her ruined dinner, finally understanding that protecting Ronan had cost her everything else. The week after Thanksgiving was like watching a controlled demolition in slow motion. Everything Ronan and Elise had built their lives on crumbled piece by piece. Elise's reaction wasn't what I'd expected. Instead of trying to explain herself, she went on the offensive. She showed up at my office Monday morning. "You destroyed my life for nothing," she spat, barging past my secretary. "You humiliated me in front of your entire family like some petty, vindictive child." I looked up from my desk. "You destroyed your own life when you decided to sleep with my brother for 8 months. I was lonely. You were never home, never paid attention to me, treated me like a roommate instead of a wife. You don't get to play the victim here, Cole. You drove me away with your neglect, and now you want to punish me for finding happiness with someone who actually cares about me." She wasn't sorry, she wasn't ashamed, she was mad she got caught. And me? I was looking at her feeling absolutely nothing, like she was dead to me already. "Pack your stuff and get out of my house. Our house. I have just as much right to that house as you do. Actually, you don't. You have no legal claim to it." Elise's face went red. "You planned this. You've been planning to throw me out from the beginning. I planned to protect my assets from someone who turned out to be a thief and a liar. Lucky me." Let me tell you about the divorce, though. That afternoon, I hired a divorce attorney and filed no fault. We got temporary orders for exclusive use of the house, froze the joint accounts, and kicked off discovery. She was served 2 days later at her parents'. She took a swing at spousal support. The affair receipts and the business fund stunt torpedoed it. 6 months later, the decree was signed. She kept her car, clothes, and whatever she could prove she bought. I kept the house and the company clean break. Back to the scene. She kept ranting for 10 minutes straight until my cold replies finally got on her nerves, and her mask finally dropped. "Screw you. You're a cold, selfish bastard who cares more about your precious reputation than your wife's happiness. Ronan was right about you." She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. An hour later, I got a call from Mateo Cole. "You need to know. Elise has been calling your clients, telling them you're having a mental breakdown and can't be trusted with their projects. The vindictive witch was trying to destroy my business out of spite, but it backfired." Most of my clients knew me well enough to recognize manipulation when they heard it. Several called to express their support and to let me know what Elise was doing. Within 2 days, word had spread through the construction community that Elise Carver was trying to sabotage her own husband's business after being caught cheating. Instead of damaging my reputation, she destroyed what was left of hers. Ronan's situation was even worse. The asset seizure Lauren's lawyer had filed went through immediately, freezing all his accounts pending the fraud investigation. He couldn't access his savings, couldn't use his credit cards, couldn't even pay his rent. He showed up at my office Wednesday looking like he'd aged 5 years and 5 days. The cocky swagger was gone, replaced by the desperate posture of a man watching his world collapse. "Brother, we need to talk." "No, we don't. You're destroying me over a woman who doesn't even love you. You want to throw away our brotherhood over someone who is just using you for stability?" Even now, facing complete ruin, he was trying to manipulate me. "Get out of my office. I'm your brother. We built this business together. You can't just throw me away because of one mistake." "One mistake? Ronan, you've been betraying me for 8 months. Which part of that was a mistake?" His face cracked, and for a moment I saw something that might have been genuine remorse. "I screwed up, Cole. I know I screwed up, but Elise, she made me feel things I'd never felt before. She made me feel like I was worth something. So you destroyed my marriage for your therapy session?" "I'm in love with her, and she's in love with me. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" I almost laughed. "Ronan, Elise was just in my office trying to reconcile. She told me what you two had wasn't real love. She wanted to go to counseling and rebuild our marriage." The color drained from Ronan's face. "She what? She threw you under the bus the second her life got difficult. You destroyed your life for someone who doesn't give a damn about you." Ronan sank into the chair, his head in his hands. For the first time since this whole mess started, he looked genuinely broken. "What am I supposed to do now? I've lost everything. Figure it out yourself." He left without another word. 2 days later, I heard he'd been arrested. The fraud charges had been filed, and the evidence Mateo had compiled was overwhelming. Ronan was looking at 3 to 5 years in prison plus full restitution. Mom tried to call me repeatedly, but I let them all go to voicemail. Her messages started angry, defending Ronan and blaming me for destroying the family. Then they turned pleading, begging me to drop the charges and forgive my brother. Finally, they became desperate. She was losing Dad, Ronan was going to prison, and the extended family was choosing sides. I never called her back. Dad had filed for divorce and was staying with Uncle Dennis. He called once to check on me, to make sure I was handling everything okay. "I owe you an apology, son," he said. "I should have seen what your mother was doing years ago, how she always made excuses for Ronan while holding you to a higher standard. I failed you as a father. Dad, you couldn't have known. I could have. I should have. But I was too focused on keeping the peace to see that your mother was destroying the family she claimed to be protecting." The divorce was ugly. Mom tried to claim Dad was abandoning the family during a crisis, but too many people had witnessed her defending Ronan's theft and adultery. She ended up with half the assets and none of the sympathy. As for me, I was doing better than I'd expected. The business was thriving without Ronan's drama and theft. I'd brought in a new partner, Dave, a solid guy who'd run his own successful contracting company until his wife got sick, and he'd had to sell to pay for her treatment. I offered him a full partnership, not just a job, because good people deserve good opportunities. Elise had moved back in with her parents in Ohio, but not before trying one last manipulation. She showed up at the house one night claiming she was pregnant and that I owed it to my child to reconcile with her. Paternity test. If it's mine, we'll talk. If it's Ronan's, that's between you and him. She never took the test. The pregnancy was apparently as fake as everything else about her. 1 year later, I was sitting in my new office overlooking the city, reviewing contracts for the biggest project my company had ever landed. Ronan was 6 months into a 4-year prison sentence. The judge hadn't been impressed with his lawyer's arguments about mental health struggles and family problems. Systematic fraud was systematic fraud, regardless of the reasons behind it. Dad was doing well. He'd moved into a nice apartment closer to downtown, started dating a widow from his church. He seemed lighter somehow. We had dinner once a month, slowly rebuilding a relationship that had been poisoned by family dysfunction. Mom was living alone in the family house, which Dad had let her keep in the divorce. She'd aged dramatically over the past year, the stress of losing her husband and watching her golden child go to prison taking its toll. She still called occasionally, leaving voicemails about forgiveness and family healing. I never called back. Then came the final visit, Elise. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my secretary buzzed me on the intercom. "Mr. Carver, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent." I looked up from my desk, feeling that familiar cold calm settle over me. "Send her in." Elise walked through my door looking like she'd been hit by a train. The confident, manipulative woman who tried to destroy my business was gone. She looked desperate and defeated. "Cole," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "Thank you for seeing me." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "You have 2 minutes." She sat down, her hands shaking as she tried to compose herself. "I know I have no right to be here. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need you to understand. I need you to know that I never meant for things to go as far as they did. Here we go. But I let her rant. I was vulnerable, and Ronan took advantage of that. Even now, she was rewriting history to make herself the victim. I was confused, Cole. I thought what Ronan and I had was love, but it wasn't. It was just excitement, a distraction from how empty my life had become. She leaned forward, tears starting to form in her eyes, but this past year losing you, losing our life together, it's shown me what really matters. You were my stability, my anchor. You were the one who truly cared about me, even when I was too stupid to see it. The tears were flowing freely now, and her voice took on that pleading tone. I know I destroyed your trust. I know I hurt you in the worst possible way, but people can change. Cole, I've changed. I've had a year to think about what I threw away. She reached across the desk, trying to touch my hand. I pulled it back. I'm not asking you to take me back immediately. I know that would be crazy. But maybe we could start over slowly. I could prove to you that I'm not the same person who betrayed you. The performance was actually impressive. If I didn't know her so well, I might have been moved. I still love you, Cole. She trailed off, looking at me with those big, hopeful eyes that had once made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. I let the silence stretch for a long moment, watching her squirm. Finally, I leaned back in my chair and gave her a small smile. Elise, I said gently, that's really beautiful. I can see you've put a lot of thought into this speech. Her face lit up with hope. Cole, but what makes you think I'd give you another chance? Silence. Elise, you've been dead to me for a year. You will always be dead to me. No, please, just let me finish. I love you. Only you, right? Your time is up. You need to leave. She broke, started crying harder. You don't understand. I was hurt and angry. I didn't mean... Security. My secretary's voice came through the intercom. Yes, Mr. Carver. This lady needs to be escorted out immediately. Elise was screaming now, completely unhinged. You can't do this to me. I have nothing left. You destroyed my life. 2 security guards appeared at my door. Elise tried to fight them off, but they took her arms and began walking her toward the exit. As they reached the doorway, she turned back to me one last time. I hope you're happy, she screamed. I hope you're happy, you heartless bastard. Yes, I replied, smiling. Very. The game was over. I'd won. And man, it felt good.